Hello, and welcome back to Flipdish Takeaways, where we bring you excerpts from the restaurant and hospitality industry from around the world. I'm your host, Yvonne Morgan. In this episode, we talked to Winston Xu about Barshu, a Chinese restaurant specializing in Sichuan cuisine located in Soho, London. We talk about the unique taste of Sichuan food and the joy of introducing traditional dishes to his local customers. We chat about Barshu's recent shift to online ordering, the changes that they have needed to make to grow their takeaway and delivery business, and Barshu's recent inclusion in the Michelin Guide. I'll start off with a bit of an introduction, Winston. It's a pleasure to meet you and to see you finally.
Thank you. You too.
I've heard a lot about yourself and the restaurant from your customer success manager, Jason. And want to thank you for coming on and sharing a little bit about your story and the story of Barshu. So if you don't mind, I'd love to just kick off and ask you a little bit about the history of Barshu, and maybe tell us a little bit about the history when it was founded. Your location, for those listeners who maybe don't know all about Barshu and a little bit more about it.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I want to say that I wasn't really the founder or the person who involved for Barshu set up about 15, 16 years ago. And I was recently joined the team about a year ago after the pandemic. So the story I'm going to share is based on what I've heard and what I've learned as well. So basically, Barshu is founded in 2005, so which pretty much about 15, 16 years ago. And at that time, as you know, the location of the restaurant is very close to Chinatown. So most of these Chinese restaurants in Chinatown is selling the Cantonese one, which is like roast dog and the other classic dishes from south of China. And Barshu is the first restaurant who is selling the Sichuan cuisine, which is mainly known as a spicy and a numbing flavor. So at that time, nobody was sure about whether the business is going to be successful or not. But luckily, when they first opened, it attracts not only the Chinese customers, but also a lot of Western foodies as well. So it was a huge success at that time. And after that, it's continued being in one of these very strong competitor in this food industry around this area for many, many years until now. So basically that is the general history about Barshu restaurants.
Oh, wow. And what do you think brought some of the kind of Westerners or tourists into the area as well, being such a new concept and maybe something that locals weren't used to? Was there a way that you got the word out there?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, to me, I'm a Chinese, and you got to understand, I know London and it's a very... they accept a multi-culture and a multi-food place, and is a great city in the world. But there's a slightly conceptual differences between what China really is and what Western people think what China is. It's just in terms of the food, and people from Western world is more accepting. At that time, I'm talking about 15 years ago, is probably more about a roast dog and sweet sour chicken, kung pao, prawns, all that very, very traditional dishes. And so when this is a huge challenge when Barshu first set up and then coming to the market, it was not easy to do the forecasting, but again, this is the reason why the owner and the management at that time found it very excited, because the Barshu made it a success. So because the flavor in Barshu is really spicy and a numbing flavor, a lot of chilies, and you will find all these spices inside the dishes. Whereas the Cantonese dishes, most accepted by the Westerner, is more sweet and sour, and then the taste of the dishes are completely different. I'm not sure whether you can get it or not.
I do. You're actually making my mouth water.
Yeah. So yeah, that is it's for the owner and for the management is very difficult to forecast. And then because the Sichuan cuisine is one of the best cuisine in China, so and then along with this, in the early that decade, and China become a more and more involved in the new world, and so everybody start and view the real face of China. So this is another reason why the owner want to bring the authentic, the best dishes in China to the new greatest city. So that is what I've known from that time, 15 years ago.
It sounds like he knew that he was taking a bit of a risk or doing something that was a bit different than the kind of or outside of the norm of what people were expecting from the cuisine.
Yeah, I mean, well, generally speaking, business is a risky behaviors, right? So no matter what you do in business, there's a risk involved. So, but this is also one of these the challenge and then the most exciting point for people to do the business. So, I mean, you not only bring the new dishes from China, but also bring a real culture to this greatest city. To let people know that the China is a huge multicultural countries. It's not only about the dishes in Hong Kong, but also we as a Chinese, we got such a wonderful dishes from other part of China, which that time not many people get to know about this point. So I think it's not only the food, but also it's a culture. This is another greatest way for the owner and the management made this point.
Okay. And just talking about kind of when Barshu first opened, can you explain a little bit about what Barshu set out to do? Was there a mission that the restaurant was aiming to kind of achieve, and potentially how that's evolved since you originally opened?
Yeah, at that time, the owner managed to bring the shift from Sichuan, particularly, to come all the way from China to London to cook this authentic food. So, and the management bring every single pieces of the tables and the chairs and even the decorations originally from China. So it's not about the food, but also from the decoration. So once this restaurant is set up, and it's amazed for most of the people in London, not only the food, which they never had it before, but also the environment, the atmosphere, the music, everything. It's so traditional China, and then people never seen um, in the other part of the Chinatown restaurants. So, and I think that is also give the local customers an excited point for people to start coming in and also come back again, but also obviously the service as well. We had a great team to first they need to understand what is the Sichuan cuisine. So they had the very good training back in China. They not only make sure they understand the dishes, the culture, but also it's just like the Sichuan culture ambassadors. So they pass on this culture, the passion of the food, to the people in London. I think that is another way of success as well.
And what about the kind of restaurant industry more generally in London, and where do you feel that Barshu fits in the dining scene and the Chinese restaurant scene?
I think this restaurant is selling the original Sichuan food. It's a Sichuan cuisine, so it's more famous for, like I said, spicy and numbing and all these chili oil, and I think that is where the stands for. Nowadays, after the successful of Barshu, there's a lot other investors or business partners jumping in this particular food industry. So now Barshu obviously is not the only one who is selling these kind of dishes. So the competitors also reduce the distance between other restaurants and Barshu. So I think now, because London food industry, it's kind of it's accepting more and more dishes from all over the world, and obviously they kind of like put Barshu not as as outstanding as 15 or 16 years ago. So, but we continue to be outstanding. We continue to be special, and this is the reason why we last for 15 and 16 years. And we even during this very difficult time, we still, never lose the faith, never lose the confidence. So we will be continue doing what we used to do and doing what our best to do in the near future.
And I do want to go to some of the changes that you've made more recently, and kind of during lockdown. However, before we go there, I want to kind of talk about a little bit more about your food and your chefs and how you go about creating the menu and what you offer today, how you kind of listen to your customer or what's happening in the industry to adapt to evolve or create the menu that you think is what your customers are going to be interested in.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point because for us, the biggest challenge is balance between the Western customers and also the Chinese customers. There are certain food, for example, the fish. Okay, as far as I know, we as a Chinese, we most of us eat the fish with bones. Okay, but the Westerners is more like to eat the fish fillets without the bone. The difference for flavor, obviously, it's different, but we also have to respect the Western people. They prefer not to eat any meat with the bone in, and so there are certain dishes we have to make adjustments. Even that is one of the best dishes from China, from Chinese customers, but we have to make a certain adjustment to suit for the local customers. So for doing that, we don't want to lose the authentic of the original dishes, but we have to also respect what the local customers' eating habits. And so this balance never disappear from our restaurants. And then so we need to fully understand what's the difference. That's the first. And secondly, we have to manage to make the suitable changes.
And do you spend a lot of time educating customers about the cultural differences or about what you're serving because of that?
Yes. I mean, just because it's not easy for Westerners customers accept the full Chinese eating habit. For example, okay, let's say pig's trotters or pig's ear, the beef offals, things like that. We respect the point that Western people, the local people, probably not easy to accept it at the moment, but we still trying to introduce, let them know. We open the door for them to understand what real Chinese people, the eating habits. So it's not we pushing them to start accepting, but we let them understand. Some of them is easy. They're open minded. They once they know, they're quite funny. So the local customers, if they see the next table, whereas the Chinese are eating, ordering some different food, completely different from what they order, and then some of them say, "Oh, what's the next table's dishes? Can you tell us more about it?" And then we'll be more than happy to share our views on it. And then some of them they say, "Oh, I'm gonna try for it." Like
Absolutely.
or don't like it, but you might have to try it and then if you don't try it, you never know what kind of new things you're gonna accept or not, right? I think that is the where we continue. We can continue serving the traditional dishes, the dishes that local customers would like to come back for. But at the same time, we like to introduce what is the best dishes from the original China, from the contemporary Chinese eaters, what their choice are. So, and then that gives the people more choices. End of the day, it's customers' call. So,
That's
but
great.
we need to let them know.
And
Yeah,
that must be such it's a huge compliment when you're trying something new on your menu, or maybe there's something that's described might be a little bit more risky for someone who's not used to your cuisine. They
correct.
see it being brought over to a table, they ask what it is, and they want to try that too. So I'm sure
Correct.
that's probably a exciting feedback that you get in the restaurant as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And can you tell me? I want to talk a little bit more about the more recent changes that yourself and
Okay.
many other restaurants are going through at the moment. And some of our audiences that are listening are global audiences, so not just from the UK or here in Ireland, across the US as well. Can you tell us a little
Right.
bit more about the environment for restaurants within your city, and kind of what you've been experiencing and the challenges that you've gone through over the past few months and probably even years in
Yeah.
some cases?
Yeah, I mean, I understand this moment is very tough. It's tough not only for us but also for most the business across the world, and definitely we're one of them got affected. But as I said, we it's business is like you have to do the business in the market. If the market's changing it, and you got no other ways but start adapting the new rules. For example, delivery. Before the pandemic, we didn't really pay attention to the takeaway. It's not because we try to ignore this market, but it's more like our dishes it is so much difference between the eating quality and the takeaway quality. You know, imagine if you've got a hot, piping hot, and chili, or you, or that kind of like a theory, like a theater. So, but I have no choice but put it in the takeaway containers, and then by the time that the drivers get to your house, God knows how long is that going to take, and God knows when you open the lid and what kind of the first impression you will see. So this is something that we don't want our customers to experience before the pandemic. Okay, so this is the reason why we never do a lot of takeaways. But after this lockdown, and we had a very tough time, so we made our decision to start doing takeaway businesses. And then surprisingly, we've had a reasonable good feedbacks from our customers. As you know, the takeaway you can only deliver, let's say, within 3 or 5 miles. So within 3 or 5 miles in our location, first we had a huge competitors because just we got very strong competitors just around the corner, and there are a lot of other choices for customers to order as well. And then there are a very limited number of restaurants within 3 or 5 miles. So I'm really glad that we made our business survive during this difficult time. So we start cooperate with the different takeaway platforms. So we did our best to do the campaign, to do the promotions. We work together closely with the platforms to get the feedback from our customers. So these are the old changes we never thought about it before the pandemic, and we very how can I say, we're very excited that the results we've made. And as I said, business, you never can get unchanged business. The business environment is keep changing every single minute. And the most important thing is that you just need to adapt the new rules and then start working on it hard.
And what did you have to make any adaptations to your menu or your packaging when you started to kind of deliver outside of the restaurant?
Yeah, I mean, for certain dishes, we used to, as I said, we didn't have a lot of experience on delivery food. So the containers we're using is one of the challenge for us as well. and some of the dishes, like I said, is coming out to the tables with piping hot oils or with hot soups. And there are certain dishes we really cannot, for the safety reason, we cannot get to the delivery service. And some of them we made our changes, or we reduced the temperatures. So once the dish is cooked, we have to leave there for a certain number of minutes to get it to cool down before we head into the drivers. For the style of the containers or wrapping skills, with the cling films to make sure that it's all properly looked after for the safety reason for the drivers. This is all the challenges that we faced and during this time where we never had experience. But so those are the things I'm sure we're not the only one. Other businesses also doing the similar behavior. Because we've also had our own customer space after all these years. So, for instance, there are places they got a reasonable number of people want to order from us. They're probably about 10 miles away or 8 miles away. So we create sort of like a group, like a WhatsApp or WeChat group. So people are ordering on the same day. So we have to get our own drivers to get all this food on the same day, just knocking their door one by one and then deliver to them. So we've done that as well. Well, actually, I've delivered a few times by myself. We try to make the business whatever it takes.
Absolutely. And you mentioned, I wanted to ask about your dine-in experience. So now that you've opened back up, I think outdoor opened first, and now you're open indoors as well.
That's right.
How have you adapted indoor?
Well, it's quite funny. I mean, since you ask, because we never ever put our tables outside. And then after the 12th of April, because that time the government guideline was only table outside allowed, and the table inside is still not allowed. We actually brought about 4 or 5 tables outside, and then we made our business, to be honest. And then we never can imagine people want to sit outside to eat our food, because it's you might want to go to Soho for tapas, for drinks, for fish and chips, but for our food, we never thought about that. But once we put a table outside, we are amazed by how many customers came back to us and then start sitting down outside. And then we had one of these celebrity. I can't really mention his name, but he keep coming back for 5 times a week. One of the times he has to hold his umbrella because it was raining in London's weather. So having seen these customers coming back, eating in the extremely bad weather, that made us, very touched. And then we just say, look, so nowadays, even we allowed for table outside, we never give up on this table outside. And actually now, because we are in Soho, and especially on the weekends night, Friday night or Saturday night, it attracts a lot of people for sitting down and having their drinks before they, carry on to next pub or bar. So that opened another door for us, for people understand this brand, this image from a different angle. So I think that is one interesting part for me joining the team as well.
Oh, that's great. Your restaurant has adapted a lot, obviously, since the pandemic, but it's so nice to hear, that customers love your restaurant so much that they too are adapting by doing things like, wanting to sit outside and still enjoy your delicious food. So that's great.
Thank you.
And it sounds like you'll continue to keep those outdoor or those tables outside for your restaurant, for your patrons then, or your customers.
Absolutely. Yes.
Great. And to talk about a little bit more about the future, what do you think, or what do you kind of anticipate or expect for the future for Barshu and the restaurant industry more generally? Do you have any kind of comments or feelings about that?
I think, well, For now, all I can say is this: it seems like this pandemic is not going to be disappear in a very short time. So everyone, every business, every company need to adapt the new rules, and then we just need to work out the best way for ourselves. For the market, especially, if there's it takes time for all these foreign students or the tourists coming back in London. We have to continue serve the local customers, make sure they keep coming back, and until we, as UK, can open the door, accepting more tourists, international students, especially from Asia. For the future, I think the dishes we still have to work it out with the chefs, make sure that we're doing the best dishes in town, and it's continue communicating with the chefs, like sort of like a research department in China. We continue working on the dishes, no matter the pandemic or not. And for the marketing, we will continue working very hard with the delivery service. And for service, obviously, we cannot ignore any customers coming back. We're going to offer we're still going to offer the best service as well. So no matter what happens, we just need to push from our inner world and then do the best that we can, for the best performance.
Excellent. And speaking of the best performance, I learned that you were recently included in the Michelin Guide. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, to be honest, that is one of the points made myself proud as well. Actually, Barshu has been nominating the Michelin Guide all these years. And funny enough, and we just realized, it's been the middle of 2021. It seems like we haven't received any stickers or any certificates yet. So it was actually me contact them, and then to say, because when I logged on the website, we find out that we already been pointed as a Michelin Guide, a restaurant in this area. So I just phoned them up and then done what I have to do, and then get the stickers back on the window. It's actually, I just sticked it a few weeks ago when I received it. It's a great honor to be part of the Michelin Guide, and that means we have been doing things right to be pointed, and so whatever we do good, we do outstanding. We'll be continue doing that. And then we'll at the same time, as I said, we'll have to work hard facing the very difficult business environment.
Well, congratulations, and achieving something like being included in the Michelin Guide during this time is quite, I'm sure, a challenge amongst everything else that you have going on, and the adapting that you've done in this environment. I'm sure that you probably have some advice for other restaurants. I wanted to give you the opportunity to ask if is there anything that you would mention or share with other restaurants, either whether it's around coming out of lockdown or just as a highly respected restaurateur, and what you would suggest.
Well, I think it's a very difficult time, and it's some of the restaurants are facing extremely hard time to survive. I just wish all the best for all of them, and just get up and just no matter how hard it is, you still got to do what you got to do. Got to open door for every single business opportunities. Don't give up, and just work hard on the right points on every single day. So good luck, everyone.
Thanks so much, Winston.
Thank you. No problem.
That's it for this week's episode of Flipdish Takeaways. If you'd like to find out more, feel free to visit our website at flipdish.com. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit subscribe wherever you're listening. See you next time.